page on Facebook on the Maths Tutors UK group and on Twitter. So we'd love this thing to be interactive. So if you've got any comments while we're talking, we'll try and address them as much as possible. Just to quickly introduce myself, I'm an online maths tutor. I'm into my 10th year of teaching online. I absolutely love teaching online. And the pandemic has happened, so I'm kind of using this opportunity to not only share my expertise, but to gather other online tutors, and they get to share their expertise. It's the way I learned how to teach online many years ago. So today I'm very, very excited to welcome the next guest on our second live stream. We did one back when the pandemic just started.
We did.
And he did no online tutoring before, and he's been putting quite a lot of hours and experience in. So welcome Barney to the second maths live stream.
Thank you, Atul. It's good to be back. I'm also a full-time online maths tutor, but unlike Atul, I've been tutoring online since last March, like most online maths tutors. I became a full-time tutor in about 2009. I had a few requests to do online, and my answer was always the same: certainly not, no. I definitely don't want to do online tutoring. How that's changed. So then I went down to part-time in about 2014. So alongside tutoring, I started doing maths visits at predominantly primary schools, which is odd because tutoring, I'm GCSE and A-level and above. But doing the school visits, it was primary schools, which was kind of really fun, even going all the way down to nursery, teaching them the difference between triangles and squares. And there'd be this amazing light bulb moment when you could tell that a child was thinking, some of them have got 3 sides, some of them have got 4. Very special moments. But now I've gone back to full-time tutoring, and of course it's all online. And the question is, am I going to go back when this is all over to face-to-face? I think I'll do a bit of face-to-face, but mainly online. So just to sort of introduce myself properly, would you like to see a magic trick? A maths magic trick, just to
brilliant. Yes, it is Friday. I'm well up for a magic trick. Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's do this. Okay, so I'm just going to I'm going to screen share actually.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm on BitPaper. Is this coming through okay?
And it's loaded, yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to open the shapes palette and I'm going to draw a big square. And then I've got a few other things to draw. And while I'm setting this up, Atul, could you please give me a single digit number? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. Okay. Your choice.
Just the one digit. I'll go for 3.
Okay, we're going to go for 3. So I'll put that up there. I've got a few more lines to draw. So I'd also like another single digit number, please. So it can be the same or it can be different. Sorry, was that 9?
Oh no, I'm just
you're thinking. Any single digit number you like.
Let's go for 7.
7. Okay, and finally, which way round would you like them? 37 or 73?
Let's go for 37. Yeah, 37.
Let's go for 37. Okay, so I'm just going to put some numbers in here. Just do a few little calculations. Okay, we'll have a 9 in there. Right, let's have a look. And I think, yeah, that looks good. And okay, there you go. What do you think? Pretty good?
Yeah, looks good. Yeah,
let's explain what's going on.
Right.
So I started with the third row, and if you go across this third row and add these numbers, we got 15, 21, 26, and 11 is 31. 37, sorry. So those 4 numbers add up to 37. But of course, there's many thousands of ways I could have done that. Only one will work for this trick, though. Right. So if we go across the second row and add those, 4 and 17 is 21, and the 9 is 30, and 7 is 37. The top row, adding the numbers, we got 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 is 37. And going across the bottom row, 3 and 13 is 16, and the 21 is also 37. But while that was a little tricky in the time, the hard bit was getting the columns to add up as well. So if you just check the first column, add up the numbers, we got 15, and 15 is 30, and the 4 and 3 is 37. Second column, we got 17, 18, 24, 37. third column starting with the 21, 26, 35, 37, and the final column 19, 26, 37. So there you go, a bit of a magic square. Now, I could have stopped there, but I thought it might be quite fun to make the diagonals add up to 37 as well. So we got 15, 32, 37. And if we check the other diagonal, add in those numbers, we got 19, 28, 34. They're up to 37 as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we could have stopped there, but as it's Friday, I thought it might be quite good fun to have a look at these four numbers in the top left there. So if you just add those up, they'll add to 37. These numbers here, we got 15, 21, 24, 37. Could you just add those four numbers up for me, Atol, if you'd be so kind?
Yep, 21 and 5, 26, 26 and 11, also 37.
37, and those four there, of course, add up to 19, 21, 30, 37. So finally, as it's Friday, I thought it might be fun to make the four numbers in the corners add up. So here we have 15. That's not a very good circle, but I can bring one up. 18, and 0 is still 18, and 19 is 37. And last but not least, if we check the four numbers in the middle, 17, 9, 6, and 5, also add up to 37, and that's what we call a magic square.
Amazing. I mean,
bit of fun for Friday.
Yeah. Wow.
But funnily enough, I'd never done this trick online until yesterday when we were rehearsing, using a different number, I have to say. And the result is actually a lot more pleasing than when I used to do it on paper, because we got the different colours. It's very neat and crisp. It's a bit messy on paper. So straight away, I like this online better than on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I mean, I'm sure there's a trade secret which you're going to keep to yourself.
Actually, I'm not going to divulge the secret today, but when I go into schools, it's not showing off. It's there to show them about patterns. So we do go through how this works and why it works. And I give all the children the tools to go away and do this. In short, there's a standard magic square, and you just have to adapt it a little bit to get the target number. There's a little bit of memorization, but I give the children a way that they can all do it without having to remember anything. So
right,
good trick, easier than it looks though. Easier than it looks, but lots of fun.
It looks spectacular. Yeah, it's the first time I saw it properly done was yesterday as well. I was like, what's Barney coming up with? It's like first the four rows and then the other ones.
Of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're going to talk a little bit about my evolution of how I got to this stage.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got like a few questions. So when we first connected, you just started, and it's been nearly a year, right? So, and
yeah,
tutoring online is multifaceted. There's many moving parts, and so I'll kind of just ask you how it's gone for you for a mix of hardware and software. Probably the one I would say more important is how you went from a laptop to a tower, I believe, right? You started off with what you had.
Yeah, well, I started off because I'd always tutored downstairs. Today I'm upstairs at home in a tiny little box room that used to not really do very much. But my family's now got the dining room back, and it's a dining room through lounge. And when I was tutoring, that was out of bounds to the family. So as a family, we've gained 2 extra rooms. I'm now upstairs on a desktop, which is many years old, probably 6 years old. It's not especially powerful, but it's all I need. I've got Zoom, BitPaper, I've got Word and PowerPoint and a few other things which I'll show you later. But you don't have to spend a fortune. But I think a desktop is really vital because a laptop, you're looking slightly down for many hours of the day. It's not very good posturally. And moving on to a desktop with a large monitor, there's a lot of information you can put on screen. And when I was working on a laptop, I found several of my online students had a larger monitor than my laptop. And that caused problems because they could fit a lot more on. And I was always having to pan around. Although there's ways around that. If on a desktop or a laptop, Control-Shift+ and I can make it bigger, and Control-Shift- to make it smaller. So you can easily match the screen size of your tutee.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think a desktop is the way to go. They were sort of going out of fashion a little bit before the pandemic because we always wanted to be mobile. But now people working from home, if you're working from home, you don't need the portability of a laptop. I think the desktop is the way to go. And then yourself and several other tutors were explaining to me about, oh, you should get a second monitor, which I resisted until about 2 weeks ago, because I'm not really a very tech savvy person. And this seemed quite scary, having a second monitor. But yourself and other people said, oh, no, it's great because you have the person you're speaking to on this monitor, and then you have the material you're working at here. And I've taken that further on my little monitor, which is only a little 14-inch one that had been in the loft for about 10 or 15 years. And I got it out, it still worked. And now, so it didn't cost anything. I've got Zoom there, and then I've got some textbooks open on here so I can start snipping the next question that we're going to work on. And then on the main screen, I can also keep an eye on my student working on the current problem. And it's really nice to have two monitors.
Well, that's great.
If it seems scary, ask for help on the Maths Tutors UK Facebook group. If you've got any technical questions, it's a brilliant community. Everyone's only too pleased to help.
Brilliant. No, yeah, that brings us on to so maybe if you remove the screen share, you can show us the evolution in terms of how you started with the Visualiser, I believe, and then if you want, you can show if you're willing to show your setup as well. And
I remember the day in it would have been February or March last year, when my wife was on Facebook and she said, "Oh, people are saying that that schools are going to close and that we're going to have to tutor. All the tutors are going to move online." And I sort of said, no, that's not going to happen. And then about 2 days later, I said, "Chrissy, tell me about this this moving online." And the next week was one of the busiest weeks of my life. We were all frantically scrabbling around, picking the brains of your good self and others to say, how do we do this? So the first thing I did is I got myself this Visualiser, which was about £200, which seemed like money well spent, because it was either that or be out of a job. So I got a Visualiser. I'm just going to screen share again to show you how this works. So I'll show that window now. And this is how I tutored for the first few weeks. And I have my paper here. I have my massive colours, which I've always used. I like to use different colours.
Nice.
And we just start saying, okay, let's do some maths. And we talk through whatever it is that we're doing on this particular day, and I could zoom in or out depending on the student's preference. And then at the end, I just photograph the notes and email them off. But it was one way, and I quickly worked out that no, BitPaper was the way to go. Although I still use this monitor for things like calculator technique. So I think it's really empowering for students to know all the different functionality of the buttons on the calculator. And I'm aware sometimes that when a student is doing a calculation, I think this is taking a bit long. I know they're doing it the wrong sort of way. So I can still use this to share calculator techniques. So a few of my favorite buttons on the calculator.
Right.
Let's start off with the year 2021, which is the current year. Prime number or not a prime number? Well, 2 doesn't go into it. Does 3 go into it? Well, we could do the digit sum trick. We could add 2 and 2 and 1. That makes 5. So no, it's not divisible by 3. It's not divisible by 5. I don't know. Is it prime? Well, there's a button that can check. It's called fact. So you enter the number and press equals, and then shift fact. Oh, there you go. It's not prime. It's 43 times 47. So that's a very cool button.
Love it.
Some more. I've got a little polynomial here, f of x. Let's suppose that I want to find f of -2. So I want to sub -2 into that. Lots of problems potentially with double negatives and even triple negatives. But the answer button's great here. So I'm going to put -2 equals. using this minus button, which actually means negative. And then I'm just going to click answer cubed, minus 4 answer squared, minus 7 answer plus 5. And that will substitute minus 2 in for me. Of course, there's a table function as well, but I think it's really empowering to have this knowledge in the calculator. And I've got the A-level one as well, but I like to have both to hand because I want to use the same calculator that my student's using.
Right.
So there's one other button that I really like on this one, which I use when I'm teaching statistics. There's the random number here. So it's shift random number, and it will just spit out some random numbers at you. Unfortunately, you have to press this button to change them into a decimal.
Right.
But my pal Rosalind, who is a tutor who lives near me, showed me this trick. If you multiply it by 1,000, then you just get a random number between 1 and 1,000.
3-digit, yeah.
And then finally, suppose we're doing something with dice. We might want to roll a virtual dice. And now we want the random integer, ran-int. So that's alpha ran-int. So suppose I want a number between 1 and 8. Here's my comma here, it's a little bit hidden away, shift close brackets. So I'm now going to roll a virtual 8-sided dice. And there we go, those are the numbers. And that's kind of nice because it reminds the students what an integer is.
Right. That's amazing.
So yeah, I still use the Visualiser, still handy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, what I noticed as well is, because a lot of schools at the moment, teachers are using Visualiser to remote teach, and it's a great way of teaching because you're already used to handwriting and using a calculator, and it's got this kind of organic human feel. I use a document camera as well for manipulatives and things, so it just switches between the whiteboard and the actual thing. But what I notice immediately is your Visualiser focus, lighting, and the ability to zoom is really, really good. Actually, the quality is pretty good.
It's really nice, and you can there's a button on the head that allows you to take screenshots or partial screenshots. The only thing I don't like is the lighting in my room is so bright that I get the shadow of the head here. So if I put the calculator there, it's a bit in shadow, so I have to move it to the side. But, that doesn't matter. And I also like you say, it's a real feel. You can see the hand moving. And I think if you're just staring at a screen for an hour, it's nice to break it down and say, oh, let's have this view, and then we'll work on BitPaper for a while. And it's nice to have different formats rather than just purely be on the same sheet for an hour. So it kind of breaks it down.
No, it's great. And would you mind sharing, to actually show your two monitors if you can, if you have the two?
Yeah, sure. So am I still screen sharing? I can't remember.
No, you are on. We're talking, so you can.
Okay. Well, if I screen share that, then does this allow me to show you what's going on in my office? Is that working?
Yeah, I can see your statistics book in your window.
Brilliant. Okay. Hello. There you are.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So I got a bit of statistics to cram for the weekend. So that's all ready. So there's the main monitor, and then the little side one there.
Nice.
There's my little tower, and the whole thing is balanced on a shelf, which is just a long piece of wood with two end bits. And that means that the two monitors and the printer don't take up any desk space at all, so I can still put things under here. Then I've got my phone, just in case any connection problems, or the student can let me know if they're running a bit late. Down here I've got a desk with all my textbooks. Of course I've got online versions of the textbooks, but I like to have one to flick through as well. And here we've got client cards, so I can write down, I won't show you any personal details of any students, but I like to keep a note of what we've done each time. And then behind, this is me, and I've just got a curtain on a curtain pole. So I can just pull it across, and I've got it's just a bed sheet I've got behind me at the moment,
right?
On a curtain pole, and that just means I don't have to worry about all the terrible clutter that's in the background.
Yes, I have loads, believe me. No, that's amazing. And the other thing I noticed is you obviously carefully thought about lighting. So you've got the white curtain, and you're sitting. I do the same thing. I'm sitting opposite a window right now, and I feel like, especially in these cold, gloomy months, you need that lighting to actually just kind of show you and present you in the best possible light, quite literally. And it's just, yeah, it's less gloomy kind of sitting in a dark room in the
Yeah,
middle of a
I'm
winter.
grateful that I've got a window actually, because I think if you spend a lot of time in front of a screen, like we obviously do, the advice is that you should focus on something at least 20 meters away every 20 minutes or so, so you don't get eye strain. And it means that I can just stare out the window for 10 seconds once in a while, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, I occasionally, because I have students like all over the world, and I occasionally just show them stuff that's outside my window, and it's they see to someone in India or the US, that British architecture and even like the gloomy weather is something new to them. So it just breaks it up that way, and they show me, what I was seeing last week was a beach in Barbados, a home next to a beach. So I get to see all these things as well. So it's really good.
It is interesting, the worldwide nature of what we now do. I'm in Bournemouth, and I used to have a student in London who's crazy about maths. And it's a 2-hour drive, and once a month, they pay for me to drive all the way up the M3 to London, spend a couple of hours with this chap, and then come all the way down again. Once I announced I was going online, the dad said, "What, once a month? Let's do twice a week." And that's what we now do, despite living 2 hours away.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, brilliant. So I've got a list of things I'll sort of going through. The other thing you mentioned briefly was your phone as a backup connection, and I remember you mentioning you started off with a Wi-Fi connection, and then you were in another part of your home, so it was a bit weak, and then you experimented with a bunch of stuff. So you could take us through like the whole journey from Wi-Fi to where you are.
I would love to save everyone a lot of trouble with this. I've been struggling with dodgy Wi-Fi for 4 years, and I've tried so many things, and I just wish I'd gone to someone who knew what they were talking about at the beginning. So without a doubt, the best thing to do is to hardwire your desktop or your laptop or whatever you're using straight into the router, because then you're not going to have any Wi-Fi issues. The using the Wi-Fi for tutoring, it used to be pretty good, but just occasionally there'd be dropouts, and my tutor would say, "Oh, I think you've got bad signal," and I'd say, "No, I think it's you that's got bad signal," because you get a little bar coming up in Zoom telling you when the other person's got a bad signal. But I never get that anymore. I'm right next to the router, and it's just plugged straight in using a short Ethernet cable. But even if you are on the opposite side of the house from where if your router's on one side and where your tutoring is on the other side of the house, you can just get a very inexpensive, very long Ethernet cable. You can buy 10 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters. So do think about hardwiring it straight in. The other thing is if you really want to use Wi-Fi, there are things like Wi-Fi boosters, and there's power line adapters. I've tried them both. I've persevered for months, just couldn't get anywhere with them. Eventually, I've now got a mesh system, which is a more expensive option, but I've got 4 of these discs around the house in various locations. I've now got perfect Wi-Fi everywhere in the house. But that's not for me, that's for the rest of my family. Me, for tutoring, I'm hardwired into the router, and it's definitely the way to go.
Right.
So everything's nice.
Fantastic advice I've been giving for ages, and people have tried different things. First and foremost, for me, mine's been hardwired for as long as I remember, because I do music live streaming as well, which is quite intense. And this live streaming requires absolute solid internet, reliable. The difference between Wi-Fi and a hardwired connection is transmitting a signal through electromagnetic radiation, and just the electrons going straight from the source to the computer without any loss. So the thing with Wi-Fi you get is it's kind of unreliable because it's radiation. The further you are away from the source, the weaker it gets. With the inverse square law, it's prone to other interference from radiation, microwave being a very common one. If you switch your microwave oven next to a router, it's going to weaken the signal. So with Wi-Fi you get there's 2 things. the diminishing speed as you go away from the router, but stability as well. So it's like it's changing. And depends on the traffic as well. So you get all these variables. Whereas if you hardwire it with an Ethernet cable, like all of that disappears. No interference, no like traffic problems, no etc. So it's the most reliable way to
and
make
it's
sure.
so inexpensive. You just buy one cable, and there you're done. All your Wi-Fi problems are solved.
Exactly. I've got like a 30-meter cable. I've had a 30-meter cable since the early 2000s. It's the same cable actually. I have like not changed to Wi-Fi with my main like computer. Brilliant. Yeah, we've got a comment coming in. Anthony on the Maths Tutors group. He says yes. BT is a mesh system. Yeah. Yes, using
yes,
BT
yeah, I've got the BT mesh system. I'm not with BT. I'm with Virgin for the broadband, but I'm using the BT mesh system.
Right.
Although for tutoring, I'm not using the mesh system at all. It's hardwired.
Okay.
And yeah, there are other things. You've got a podcaster's microphone, and you've got some speakers. I've got neither. I've just got this headset. It's my hearing's not great, and I find without the headset, I can't hear too well what the students are saying. But it just plugs straight into either the laptop or the desktop. If I'm on a laptop, I use this little gadget here, and the two connections, the microphone and the headphones go in there, and then that's a stereo one that goes into the laptop. So yeah, that's what you need.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that's a little bit small, so I could remove the screen share if you want.
I'll just.
Okay.
Got it. But the point is, you don't have to spend a lot of money to set up for online tutoring. Yeah. You can, but you don't have to.
Absolutely. I mean, a desktop cheap computer is like for the same spec is less than half a laptop. I mean, I've got like a i7 desktop, which if I had to buy the same laptop, it would be like nearly 2.5, 3 times more expensive. Ethernet cable, dead cheap, like £5. I used an external USB mic. My first one was one of those sort of long ones for about £5. So you don't really need to. You just have to customize your system. The other thing, right, with desktops,
webcam, of course, £45 or something like that. Again, a one-off expense.
Exactly. It can be. Yeah. Okay, great. We could talk about tech. I could talk about all day. And so that's our end. But what if your students? What device works well for your students, and how would you improvise if they have something that doesn't quite work?
So my students, it's a mixture of desktops, laptops and tablets, and I was quite surprised that I think out of those the tablet is possibly the best, because they can just write with a finger. Or some of them have a stylus or an Apple pen, I think some of them call it, and they can write really, really neatly on BitPaper. So I can do work through a maths problem and then give them a similar one, and then I can watch them work through it. So yeah, that works very well. But then if they're on a tablet, then they can't see me on Zoom at the same time as using BitPaper on the tablet. So then we have laptops or desktops, which has the advantage that they can also keep seeing me on Zoom. Even if they don't, I tend to wave my hands around, which is quite funny because they can't see. I'm still trying to wave my hands around. And if they're on a desktop or a laptop, it is a really good idea for them to get a graphics tablet, which will cost them around £35 or something for a decent graphics tablet, and it means they can write really neatly.
I mean, you can get the Huion one, which I also have, for about £22, but the really good Wacom one is £36. So it's a really good investment, which is great because that takes us to kind of this. I'm just looking at my list. What we're talking about.
We're going to talk a bit about BitPaper.
Yeah, so we'll obviously the graphics tablet is something you'll use with a software. So we can go segue straight into how to use BitPaper.
Yeah, okay, so here's BitPaper. You were kind enough to give me, and you and others were kind enough to give me the basic run through back last year, so it's nice that I can now do the same. So your main buttons, can you see these 8 at the bottom on the live feed okay, Atul?
Yeah, I can see all of it, yeah.
So it's free for the students, And for the tutor, I pay a small subscription. I think it's about £7 a month or something. It's probably roughly what I'm saving in stationery, not having to buy pens and pads of paper and things.
Yeah.
And I really love it. So a quick chat at the bottom, you've got the color palettes. So I've got, oh, I'm still on the shapes. So there's my pen number 2. So we've got as many different colors as you would like, which is really, really, really useful. In fact, I'm going to go straight to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 one along, which is the shapes palette. And next to this square, I've got a little wheel. If I click that wheel, up comes the shapes palette. So I'm going to select the pointer, and that allows me to draw a set of axes. So in a minute, we're going to draw some straight lines. We're going to use y equals mx plus c. But I think I'd like some squared paper first. So I'm going to press B for background. Or you can, if you don't want to do that, you can use this button here.
Love it. Love the pointing arrow.
So here we go. I'm just going to have some squared paper. And now I'm going to just move my axes a little bit so they line up with the squares. I'll just draw around and make them a little bit bigger. And then shift this one over a bit. So using lots of different colors, we can have in the blue, let's have something like y equals 2x plus 1. So we've got a gradient of 2, and we've got a y-intercept of 1. So I'm not going to label the axes just for the sake of saving a bit of time. So I'm going to draw a nice straight line, like so. Incidentally, to get a straight line, there is a ruler tool, which is this tiny little ruler here above the pen icon. But alternatively, you can just write freehands, but hold down the shift button.
Yeah.
So there's me writing freehands. I've actually enabled one of the buttons on my graphics tablet to mimic shift, so I don't even have to lean all the way over to the keypad. I just press down shift and then get straight lines. So now I might choose a different color, and I'll say to the student, all right, can you do y equals 3x minus 4? And then they can, we can easily have 6 or 7 different straight lines on this graph, and because they're all different colors, it shows very nicely.
And this is two-way interactive, so if I was a student, you could ask me, and they had the touch screen or stylus, you could ask me to interact, right? So it's like you.
In fact, I'm going to do that now, Atul. So can you go and I have to give you remote control though, which I'll do. Give remote control to Atul. So you're now controlling my PC.
Right.
So would you like to go and select the orange color and put a few crosses?
Yes, I will do that. Hopefully it'll work.
Just to show that it's a two-way thing.
Yeah,
there we go. So yeah, I'm not doing a thing. So this is Atul playing the role of students, and he's now selecting the orange.
Yeah, just selected the orange. I'll close the drawer there. Okay.
So you might want to write down what M and C are for the gradient and the intercept.
Okay. I'll just.
Or you might just want to go.
Yeah, I'll just point there. In fact, I'll use my graphics tablet also. That's M. And I'll put a little nice, and of course I can do that on my end on my BitPaper without needing the remote control as well, because
exactly, yeah, we're screen sharing today for the live feed, but in a tutorial normally I would send a link to the BitPaper through the chat on Zoom, and then the student can open the link, and then we can both work collaboratively.
Yeah, I've got that, so I can show that to you directly without the remote control as well. So I can just write, hello. And another thing I do sometimes is actually to use this line as a manipulative, because the gradient is the same anyway. So you can probably see.
Yeah, so you can move it along.
Yeah, I'm just changing the C because the gradient is the same. So it's a nice way to show, or make a copy of it and say actually still the same gradient. But anyway, that's just what I do, just to quickly show.
Should we talk about the highlighter button that was added a few months ago?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So I love the highlighter button. So I'm just going to draw a second set of axes here. And we're going to solve a quadratic inequality. So we'll have something like x minus 1, x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. So if you tutor this at GCSE or A level, you'll know that you need to draw a graph here. So it's going to look something like that. I'm going to take the squares away now because we don't need them. And we want to know where this is greater than or equal to 0. I'm just going to move this across a bit so it goes through my crosses. So the highlighter tool is down at the bottom, just above the paint palette. So I'm going to click on that one, and that brings me up my highlighter. So I can say, well, look, I want this part of the graph, and I also want this part of the graph. And you can change the color of the highlighter as well. There's the pen color and the highlighter color. So I've got it on orange. So I can now see that the answer is that x is less than or equal to -2, or x is greater than or equal to 1. I think the highlighter tool is really nice, and it just makes for a more interesting visual slide.
Yeah, it really does.
So I'm really glad they've added that one.
No, it's been a game changer for me. I use it in all sorts of ways.
Yes, agreed.
You can use it as another pen sometimes, just a very quick change between one pen and the other if you adjust the thicknesses.
Yeah, you can have it thicker or thinner. Let's just see that in action. So I'm going to change the highlighter width all the way up to huge, and I'll have this nice blue one. And then again, if I hold down Shift, I'll get a straight line instead of freehand. So that's really nice.
Okay, I've got a question actually that come up on the maths group, and I'm gonna use BitPaper itself and just paste it without the person's name actually.
Great question. I'd honestly say about 3 weeks. When I first got my graphics tablet, it was like learning to write all over again, but just stick with it. Just use it for a few weeks and you'll learn to write really nicely. Most of my students can write a lot more neatly than I can with their tablets.
Yeah.
My handwriting's not fantastic, so I often use these final 2 buttons. This one allows us to write some text. And then we can change the height of the size of the text as well. I'll just make it a little bit bigger or smaller. And then I really love this final one, which is the equation editor. So yeah, to answer the question, yes, it's brilliant. Just stick with it, but you can still type if you want. And then this final one, I thought it might be nice to showcase what this is. This is the equation editor, and it uses LaTeX, which I also use when I'm blogging, and you can use it to insert equations into Microsoft Word. So it's a really good one to use. I'll show you the sort of thing you can do with it. Let's suppose I want to multiply x by x. Well, if I type it in, they can't tell the difference between a multiplication sign and an x. What we really want is a curly x and then a straight multiplication sign. So using this editor, I get a lovely x, a lovely curly x. So let's just insert that to see what it looks like. We'll just make that a little bit bigger. So if I want x multiplied by x, then let's insert that. So we have x. Well, how am I going to put the times sign? Because if I just put x, it'll come out as x. Well, to put a times sign, it's /times. So if I now insert that, we have x times x, which is cool. And I think I'll just show you some of my other favorite commands with the equation editor. Fractions are nice and easy, /fraction. So I'm going to have x on the top and 4 on the bottom. You put curly braces round the numerator, and curly braces around the denominator. So actually, why don't I have x minus 2 on the top, and I'll have x plus 4 on the bottom. And then we've got a nice algebraic fraction.
That looks beautiful.
They're lovely, aren't they? And in fact, I always have a second bit paper opening when I'm tutoring with some standard formulae that I've written up in advance. Things like the quadratic formula. It would take a while to input that, but I've got, let me show you this one, for instance, which is for A-level trigonometric identities. So I spent a very enjoyable half an hour typing all these out using the equation editor, but you've only got to do it once. And then if someone says, oh, I want to do some trigonometry, I can just go and copy it across and say, oh yeah, all right, so let's have a look at all the trigonometric identities. And then we can go through them and have a chat about them. Incidentally, a few commands that you'll need to know if you want to input identities like this. The Greeks are really easy. If you want a theta, it's backslash theta. And let's have an alpha as well. And if you want an uppercase alpha, you just start with an uppercase A. So let's put that in and see what happens. Oh no, it doesn't like the uppercase alpha. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Let's just try again. So there's a theta and an alpha. If I want an uppercase theta, I believe you just put a capital T and there's your uppercase theta. So I'll just show you a few of the other ones. Backslash div will give you a divide sign. And then the two most important ones, the little hat, I think you call it a caret, that's for superscript. So if you want to write something like x squared, you would write x squared. And then if you want a superscript, that's the underscore. So suppose I want 7, choose 4. You'd write the caret to get the 7 in the air, then you see, and then underscore 4 to get the 4 down low. So let's just see that happening. So we've got 7, choose, I'll just put a space there, it will ignore the space, underscore 4. Let's see if that works. And then we have 7, choose 4. So I really like the equation editor. And it's useful for preparing slides in advance for formulae that you know you're going to be using a lot.
Right. No, it's really good. I mean, there's some default equations as well. If on BitPaper, if you just go on the equation editor and on the top right, it gives you a few templates anyway. Simultaneous one.
Oh, let's have a look. So equations. Let's have a look. Oh, there you go. So if you want the quadratic formula, I didn't even know that. So there's the quadratic formula. Well, that's handy.
Yeah. So yeah. It's designed very well. It's really it's just latex and the way it renders the equation. It looks beautiful actually. Just like all the equations you've got there, they just look.
It
quite
really
elegant.
does. I'll show you a few more that I've prepared in advance. So here's some coordinate geometry ones. The equation of a circle, the equation of a straight line, and now I'm just going to go and copy them across into our live feed. So make them bigger or smaller. And these were really fun to prepare in advance. And I always get asked about these. So it's nice to be able to, bam, just paste them straight up. And then what else have I got on here? Stationary points.
Great use of color, by the way. Like
finding...
all of them are different colors. It's a very visually pleasing way of choosing.
Yeah, well, I used to have this ramp of like different colored pens, and it took me ages to find the most reliable felt tip pens that wouldn't run out halfway through the tutorial. And now my pens never run out of ink. It's great. I love it.
You've got 180 of them colors. So
yeah. So here's a little Venn diagram puzzle that I like doing. So again, I can give the remote control to the student, and if you think that A union B is that one, then you drag it over there. And if you think that the complement of A was that one, you drag it over to there. Incidentally, I got one of those right and one of those wrong, so no need to correct us. But yeah, this is really good fun. Chrissy Marsh gave me this idea of matching pairs games.
Can you share that on the live bit paper, and I'll move them just to show people that actually I can move them on the other side.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just copy paste some of them into. So this is presumably a template that you can.
Yeah, I'll just draw a box around the whole thing and press Control C, and then I'll put them down here. Control V, and there it is. I quite like the background, so I'm going to press B to change the background color.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, cool. Something. Yeah, we didn't look at that. Brilliant. So if you put your hands up, then it'll show that you're not doing anything, and I'm the one doing stuff. So
yeah. So I'm going to give you remote control again. Okay. So you're the boss. Maybe you can go and correct the one I got wrong.
I'll just do I'll do it on my end on my bit paper, so I don't need remote control access. But I'll move this A intersect B. Bit of live maths, no pressure.
Yeah, because if you get this wrong, it's going to be out there on YouTube.
It's going to be out there forever. Let's correct your.
So we got A union B,
I'm
not
move it there.
A union B.
Everything except for A union B. A union B are not invited to the party.
The complement or the dash. So we knows your stuff, Atul. I'll fit you on the spot.
Yes. A dash, A is not in the party.
Yeah.
A intersect B is this one, therefore it's not everything except for A intersect B.
So 6 out of 6.
Oh, thanks, Barney. Glad to know. High pressure maths live. That's brilliant. I am.
There was actually one other window that I'd like to share with you that is going to be a surprise, because we discussed mainly what we're going to talk about today, but we didn't discuss this one. So this is Geogebra, which is free. This is an interactive I made on Geogebra Classic. It's free to download, and it's really fun for making diagrams. So here we have 7 circle theorems. The first one, of course, says that angles in the same segment are equal. So I can give remote control to my student, and they can drag this around, and hopefully you can see that the angles stay in the same. As long as I stay in the same segment, if I go down to the other segment, then the angles change. But if I stay in the same segment, and Atul's not used this yet, so I'm going to give you remote control, Atul.
Okay.
And why don't you see if you can grab the vertex where the right angle is at the second one, and just try moving that around to demonstrate that the angle in the semicircle is always 90 degrees.
Great. So in this case, it's not interactive bit paper. It is remote control access. I'm controlling your computer.
Yeah.
You can even put your hands up if you want to show that. It's me.
Yeah. So
beautiful.
It's really nice to be for the student to be able to see, and you can go into the bottom half of the circle as well if you want. You can swing it all the way around to the bottom.
And whoop!
And it's still a right angle, although it's measuring the angle around the edge.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then have a go at the fourth one, which shows that the opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral are up to 180.
Oh.
And then you can drag the other 2 as well, so those vertices, and that changes both of the highlighted angles, but they still add up to 180. So I love Geogebra, and not just the circle theorems. You can draw graphs on it and do all sorts.
Nice.
So they're quite fun.
I could have a play with this all day long.
Tangent meets radius at 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great fun.
It makes every wheel go round.
And it was really fun to make as well, and you only have to do it once and then you've got it.
Yeah, I'll go for a little bit crazy spin. Beautiful. Actually, yeah, and one thing I forgot to ask is just like a bog standard worksheet that you want to snip and paste into BitPaper. So if you could just demo students working on a certain past paper question or a worksheet on Corbett Maths or something, it's already online, and how you just snip paste anything on the internet or anything you see on your screen.
So over here I've got a textbook open in Kindle. I actually normally have this up on my second screen, but I'm going to put it over here so you can see it working. And I've just on my graphics tablet, I've programmed this one to be print screen. So I just press that, and I can now, let's have a go at question 5. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So Control C to copy it. And now we'll come back to our bit paper that we were working on. We'll have a fresh screen, B for backgrounds, and I'll change that back to white. And now Control V to paste. And there's our question, and we can now work through that together. And I'm often fiddling about with my Kindle version of the textbook on one screen while my student is working through this question on the main screen.
That's so clean, isn't it? You've taken like almost all the extraneous, the visual clutter that would be, and just focused it just on that thing. I sometimes even remove the question number. I remove the question number 5, and it's just the information.
I've actually got for the A-level books, some of the A-level books come with an online version, but you can only have them zoomed out or zoomed in. So I've actually ended up getting 2 online copies of some books, because the Kindle version allows you to zoom in a bit or a lot, and that means you get a much crisper snip of the question. And again, it's a one-off expense, so I don't mind forking out for textbooks.
No, that's great. No, actually, I only use science Kindle books, but this is a great one for maths as well. Looks good. So I am just going to there's a lot of chat going, by the way. You probably didn't notice it, but there's loads of questions coming as well, and comments. I'm just gonna.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, I'm just gonna snip some in. I won't put people's names because on the maths group, that's a closed group.
But yeah, if you're a maths tutor, then do join the Facebook group, Maths Tutors UK. I totally owe my career to that Facebook group, because everyone's been and still is really generous with their advice, and you can just go on and say, hey, how do I do this? What do I do? And people are really generous in sharing their expertise. So that's been great.
Yeah, no, it's such a nice thing to have been part of, and I'm really grateful to my fellow admins, Rich, Michaela, Alex, for keeping it going. We get a lot out of it. It's hard work for us as well, but it's totally worth it. I mean, just bringing tutors together in this kind of a very isolated job. I'm just gonna go through some questions. Yes, there's one question. I don't know if it's I'll just paste it in, and you can put your thoughts, I can put mine.
And then we should screen share that YouTube example as well at some point.
Yeah, okay, of course, yes. Let's answer this one.
I tend not to give remote control to students. Rather, we talk and I get them to verbalize their solution. I feel I get more from the student in terms of understanding how they are thinking. What are your thoughts on this? Atul, do you want to take that one first?
I think, whatever works for you. It's really, there's no fixed ways of doing online tutoring, to be honest. I was talking to Barney yesterday when we were planning this, and I said, like, 15 years ago, someone I would have given, if someone had a problem and they wanted to call me up. I had one tutor call me up the night before an exam on a phone call, saying they're stuck with this certain question. They were in a bit of a panic state, and realized, okay, what can I do on a phone call? But apparently I could do a lot more than I thought they could, because I had the textbook, they had the textbook, or they could describe it to me. So, you can do online teaching in fairly lo-fi ways. It's really the tutor matters more than anything else. Like the tech, I keep saying this, the tutor, you matter much more than the tech. So if you know how to communicate to your students in person already very well, you can do that online. So be that screen share, be that BitPaper, be using a Visualiser. There's no set way of doing this. So whatever works for you.
I think we should just mention that the reason that I'm giving you remote control quite a lot today is because I'm talking you through the whole functionality of all the different possibilities. In a typical tutorial, I will not give remote control to my student because we don't need to. There's just only a very few specific things that I would tutor that would require the remote control. But most of the time, it's just not necessary, because you're both able to work on the same bit paper if you have the same link.
Yeah.
So it's a nice feature.
Yeah, exactly. On BitPaper, the BitPaper is already designed with two-way interactivity remote control anyway, but it's just things like Geogebra.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There's a nice memory game that I've made. So let's have the parts of a circle. Let's play this one. So I found this really nice website that allows you to make your own matching pairs games. So we got the radius. No match. I'll just pin that so that it comes up. No, that's not the radius. That's a sector, I think. So now I'll give remote control to the other, to my students. No match. That's circumference on an arc. So things like this. Oh, am I going to get lucky? I got a match. Nice. So there's a few things where I give remote control, but generally not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. And just a few little things. Someone wants copies of these at all possible. This one is on Twitter, so this one is on the public domain. Yeah, Donna. I think what she meant was your manipulatives, where you match the Venn diagrams, etc. So
yeah, that would be absolutely no problem, as long as Atul can explain to me how to get it to you. Yeah. We'll talk about that after the live feed.
Yeah, we've got a shared thing on the Maths Tutors group, a BitPaper resources. We can just add that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So we're
sort of coming up to an hour. I've got one particular lesson I really like to tutor that shows a lot of the functionality of the BitPaper as well. So should we maybe head into that, Atul? What do you think?
Yeah, we can head towards the grand finale. I've been looking forward to this one. Yeah.
Right, okay, so here we go. This is my friend Pete, who lives nearby. He's he used to be a cruise ship juggler. At the moment he's not, obviously. But he's a fantastic juggler. And here's a video of him about to throw a diablo really high in the air. And he phoned me up and said, Barney, I think I can throw the diablo higher than anyone in the world. I know what the world record is, and I think this is higher, but I don't know how high I've thrown it. So let's just have a quick look at the video. And then we'll figure out how we're going to solve this with the maths. So here we go. Okay, so it throws it really stupid high in the air.
Whoa, that's a long way.
And it's a catch. So Pete emailed me and said, can you have a look at this video? Is there any clever mathsy way you can figure out how high it went? And yeah, of course there is. Of course there is. All we need to know is how high in the air it went. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to take a screenshot that we can dump onto BitPaper.
Good old snipping tool. Or light shot.
So that's all set up. Let's watch the video again. Keep your eye on the timestamp at the bottom, because we need to know how long it's spent in the air. Okay, so we'll just do this roughly. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's crazy. That's a long time.
It is. I reckon it was 5 seconds.
Yeah, it started at 0,
Of course, we could do it more accurately, but let's assume it's 5 seconds. So we're coming back to BitPaper. First thing I'm going to do is paste that in, because at the end of every tutorial, I'm going to send a PDF of our work today.
Right.
For them to keep. So this will be a nice memento. Right, so this is going to use the constant acceleration equations, or the suvat equations, as they're known. And there's a set of 5 of them. It's, if you're not familiar with them, it's very similar to at GCSE, we have distance, speed, and time. You can have this triangle or whatever. But at A-level, we throw acceleration into the mix as well, because most of the time things are not going at a constant speed. So let's fill in what we know, and I'm going to do a suvat equation from the top to the bottom. So we're going to start the suvat from when the diablo was right up at the peak, at its highest point, and then we're going to examine its motion from the top right down to the moment where he's just about to catch it on the string again. So the height is what we're trying to find. We want to know how high peaked through the diablo. U and V are the velocities, the initial velocity and the end velocity. Well, at the top, it wasn't moving. When it was right at the top, it's instantaneously at rest. V is how fast it was moving when it caught it on the string, and we're not interested in that. We don't need it. A is the acceleration due to gravity. I'm just going to add a down arrow because down is our positive direction in this example. And on this planet, on planet Earth, the acceleration due to gravity is 9.8. On the moon, it's about 1.6, I think. And it varies from planet to planet, but on planet Earth, that's how strong our gravity is.
Right.
And the time was 5 seconds, but we're going to halve that because we're only interested not up and down, just as it was coming down. So that's 2.5 seconds. So we can shove it into s equals ut plus a half at squared, which if we had more time, we would of course have proved that first. We don't like to just use formulae without proof. It's nice if we can show where it comes from, and it's quite easy to do so. So we've got, well, that's 0 plus half of a is 4.9. T squared is 2.5 squared, which is 6.25, but I'm going to use a calculator anyway.
I will as well.
Right, I have an answer. What do you think, Atul? Have you got an answer?
Yeah, I've got, I'll round it up to 31.
Yeah, so it's about 31 meters. I don't think we should have it too accurately because it was only a rough measurement. So, how did Pete do? Has he got a world record? Well, I've Googled the Diablo high throw world record, and it's 23.92 meters is the official world record. So I was then able to get back to Pete and say, good news, Pete, I've done the maths, and yeah, it's a world record. Easily, you've smashed it.
It's amazing.
Nice little application of, I love stuff like that where you can use the maths to do useful things as well.
That's amazing.
Of course, you and I probably enjoy it for its own sake, but it's nice if there's an application at the end.
Oh, I mean, mathematicians, maths teachers, we love this stuff, and we like, and everyone's got their own little thing that they do, and that's great. You know,
we've all got our own favourites, and it's nice when you get to that point and the student asks a question and you say, brilliant, this is my favourite bit of the entire course, and you get to say something really cool.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I had a 9-year-old TT ask me who invented mathematics, and I was like, oh, whew, this is going to be at least an hour, but we've got 10 minutes left. So
you and that student are inventing mathematics constantly.
Yeah, it's a constant.
And I had a student, I think it was in year 5 when I was at school, and he said, we were talking about very big numbers, and he said, if you go up the number line, and if you keep going up to infinity, does the number line curl round on itself? And if you keep going, do you eventually end up back at the negative numbers again? Does it loop round on itself? Which blows my mind. And in some cases, he's correct. I think.
Yeah, oh my goodness, yeah, numbers do some.
But what a brilliant question.
It's a great question, yeah. And that's what mathematicians do. We are curious people. We want to form a conjecture and test it and generalize and think.
Yeah, generalize. It's not about numbers, it's about patterns. And it's about numbers and shapes as well, but it's about structure, and you solve a puzzle and you think, oh, that was interesting. How about if I change it a little bit? What if I tweak this? Or instead of 6, how about if it's 7 or n?
And we are all innately born with that sense of pattern spotting and trying to make meaning of it, which is probably something you saw when you were doing the workshop for, it was nursery, right? Nursery and primary, very young children, right? So,
yeah, I start from age 3, which is brilliant. And unfortunately, at that age group, I tend to get my numbers in the wrong order sometimes. So sometimes I'll go 1 and then 2 and then 3, and then it's 5 after that. And of course, they all have to shout out and correct me. But sometimes I forget 4 goes in the middle there. And it's good fun.
Oh, so that's great. Getting them very enthused and involved. I think you should definitely continue some of that when things get back to normal. I think it's so someone who teaches sort of GCSE and A level, just to kind of go back to the very beginning of children's maths journeys and kind of just give them inspiration.
It's nice to remind yourself where it all started.
Definitely.
Now and then.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll kind of wrap up there. I'll just have a quick look at any questions that haven't been answered. We've covered most stuff. Just a few kind of comments that have come up. Just people kind of articulating. Definitely helps to have lines on the screen to write with. I think that just means the grid one. It's brilliant. Love latex. Yes. Someone wants copies of this.
You can have thin lines or thick lines, and you can change the cut. You can make them blacker if you want really black. I quite like a sort of grey colour with just a thin line.
Okay. And sort of to finish off, have you got a YouTube channel or a tutoring website? Feel free to plug it. Just copy paste or show it on a BitPaper.
Yeah, sure. I'll go to my tutoring website. Which is the very imaginatively named bournemouthmathstutor.co.uk, but it's done very well for me having that domain name. So I show a few. I have a big box about do we want online or face to face, and then we'll have a few. There's me with my countdown clock on display. I had to apply twice to get on. My numbers let me down. Bizarre. But that was fun.
It's a great shot there as well.
And then we got a few examples of slides. I love this one because these cubics were drawn by my students. And I know Mirella won't mind being named, but what beautiful cubics for a student to draw using a graphics tablet. And then I've got my blog, which I think is mainly, I'm not sure how often it gets read, but it means that I have to keep innovating and creating things. And it means once a month it forces me to sit down and write something interesting. So I'm quite enjoying doing a blog. And there's a bit of GCSE, a bit of A-level, and a bit of just general maths on there.
Crikey. God made the integers.
God made the integers, all else is the work of man. Well, you know we have imaginary numbers, square roots of -1. People say they don't exist, they're imaginary. Yeah, but the negative numbers don't exist either.
No.
You know, show me -2 sheep or -3 apples. They don't exist, but they're useful.
Yeah.
So we discussed that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they are creation. Our creation, isn't it? Yeah, that's sort of negative. Yeah, very useful, and like imaginary numbers.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We've got a round of thanks coming up from people from on the closed group and on Twitter as well from Donna. So yeah, we'll wrap this one up there. We'll have the recording there, and there will be one on YouTube as well. So I'll get your website details and I can plug it there, and it'll remain on the Maths Tutors group and my Facebook page and on Twitter. So if you're watching this later, do type in a reply or a comment wherever you're watching it, and we'll try and get back to you and answer any questions you have.
And my thanks go back to the closed group on Facebook, the Maths Tutors UK group, and to your good self. There have been some really lovely, generous people on there sharing their expertise, meaning that all of this that I'm doing now is possible because of the great ethos that we have on that group. People are great, sharing their expertise. So thanks back to you all as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's we're all learning from each other. So we're always I'm learning stuff, you're learning, and that's the power of community. I don't think we could have both learned as much as we have so quickly without the help of other people who do this kind of stuff day in and day out, or just use our ideas as sounding off board and see what comes back. So I would highly recommend people, if you're on the Maths Tutors group or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, just engage with other maths educators. You learn a lot from people who teach day in and day out. Okay, fantastic. Let's wrap it up there, and I'll finish the live stream, and then we can have a quick chat. So thanks again, everyone.